When we speak about winning in every situation, we must first correct what we mean by winning. Winning does not always mean that everything goes our way, that problems disappear, or that people treat us exactly how we want. True winning is when your heart remains firm, your mind remains calm, and your faith remains intact, regardless of what happens around you. A person who understands this has already begun the journey toward mental strength with the help of Allah. The Kinstol or Sisekt on Kas. The human mind is powerful, but it is also fragile when it is left alone. When the mind is disconnected from its creator, it becomes overwhelmed by fear, regret, anxiety, and comparison. But when the mind is anchored in belief, it begins to see situations differently. A delay becomes protection, a loss becomes a lesson, and hardship becomes a means of elevation. This shift does not happen overnight. It comes from training the mind repeatedly to return to Allah in thought, reaction, and decision making. Every single one of us faces moments that shake us emotionally. Words from people can hurt deeply, circumstances can make us feel helpless, and the future can seem uncertain. Mental unbreakability does not mean you do not feel pain. It means pain does not control you. You may feel sadness, but you do not lose hope. You may feel fear, but you do not lose trust. You may feel weak, but you do not give up, because you know that Allah is stronger than every situation you face. One of the greatest lessons for the mind is to understand that life is designed with tests. These tests are not random, and they are not meaningless. Every challenge carries wisdom, even when we do not see it immediately. When the mind is trained to ask, what is Allah teaching me here? Instead of, why is this happening to me? It begins to grow. This mindset transforms hardship into a classroom and difficulty into development. A mentally strong believer understands that control belongs to Allah alone. You do your best, you plan, you strive, and you work hard, but you release the outcome to Him. This release brings peace. When something goes wrong, your heart does not shatter because it was never relying on your own power alone. You understand that if something was meant for you, it would never miss you, and if it missed you, it was never meant to be yours. This belief protects the mind from constant worry and self-blame. Training the mind also means controlling reactions. Many people lose their strength not because of what happens, but because of how they respond. Anger, impulsive words, and emotional decisions often cause more damage than the original problem. A believer learns to pause, reflect, and remember Allah before reacting. This pause is a form of strength. It is the moment where the mind chooses wisdom over impulse and patience over regret. Gratitude plays a powerful role in mental resilience. When the mind is trained to recognize blessings, even during difficulty, it becomes harder to break. Gratitude does not deny pain, but it prevents despair. A grateful mind says, this is difficult, but I am still blessed. This balance keeps the heart alive and hopeful, even in the darkest moments. Becoming mentally unbreakable with Allah means understanding that your worth is not defined by people's opinions, temporary failures, or your worth comes from being a servant of Allah, striving sincerely, and returning to Him again and again. When the mind holds on to this truth, no insult can destroy it. No setback can end it, and no delay can discourage it. This is how the mind is trained to win in every situation, not by escaping hardship, but by walking through it with faith, patience, and trust in Allah. Strengthening the mind through faith and conscious reliance on Allah begins with understanding where true strength actually comes from. Many people believe mental strength is built purely through willpower, positive thinking, or self-confidence. While these have value, they remain incomplete without faith. The human mind was not created to carry the weight of life alone. When it tries to do so, it becomes exhausted, anxious, and overwhelmed. Faith reconnects the mind to its source of stability, reminding it that there is a higher power managing what we cannot control. Conscious reliance on Allah is not passive or lazy thinking. It does not mean sitting back and doing nothing. It means doing your absolute best while keeping your heart attached to Allah rather than the outcome. The mind is trained to focus on effort, sincerity, and obedience instead of obsessing over results. This approach immediately reduces mental pressure because the mind is no longer trying to play the role of God. It accepts its limits and finds peace within them. One of the biggest causes of mental weakness is fear of the unknown. People worry about tomorrow, about loss, about failure, and about things that have not even happened yet. Faith teaches the mind that the future is already known to Allah and already handled by Him. When this belief settles deeply, the mind stops racing ahead in panic. It learns to stay present, to deal with today's responsibilities, and to trust that tomorrow will arrive with whatever Allah has written, along with the strength to handle it. Reliance on reliance on Allah also reshapes how the mind understands hardship. Without faith, difficulty feels like a personal attack or a sign of failure. With faith, difficulty becomes a form of training. The mind learns that challenges are not meant to crush it, but to refine it. Every test carries a purpose, even if that purpose is hidden. This understanding protects the mind from bitterness and resentment, which are among the most damaging emotions to mental health. Another essential aspect of strengthening the mind through faith is knowing where to return when emotions become heavy. The world teaches people to distract themselves, suppress feelings, or numb pain. Faith teaches the mind to turn toward Allah instead. Through remembrance, supplication, and reflection, the mind releases what it cannot carry. This release is not weakness. It is clarity. A mind that regularly turns to Allah does not bottle up emotions until they explode. It processes them in a healthy, grounded way. Faith also disciplines the inner dialogue. Many people speak harshly to themselves after mistakes or failures. This constant self-criticism weakens the mind over time. Reliance on Allah introduces mercy into self-talk. The mind learns that mistakes are part of being human, that repentance is always open, and that growth is more important than perfection. This creates resilience. Instead of collapsing under guilt, the mind learns to stand back up with humility and hope. When reliance on Allah becomes conscious, the mind also stops seeking constant validation from people. Approval, praise, and recognition become secondary. The primary concern becomes whether Allah is pleased. This shift is powerful because people are unpredictable. Their opinions change, their support fades, and their words can wound deep. A mind attached to Allah remains steady even when people disappoint, because its foundation is not built on human acceptance. And a faith further trains the mind to be patient without becoming passive. Patience in Islam is active endurance. It is the ability to remain upright, ethical, and hopeful while waiting for relief. This kind of patience strengthens the mind because it prevents impulsive decisions driven by desperation. The mind understands that rushing can destroy what patience could have protected. Conscious reliance on Allah teaches the mind humility. It accepts that strength does not mean independence from God, but closeness to Him. The strongest minds are not those that say, I can handle everything on my own, but those that say, Allah is with me, and that is enough. This belief creates an unshakable inner stability. Even when circumstances collapse, the mind remains standing, supported by faith, guided by trust, and anchored in reliance on Allah. Developing emotional resilience by understanding trials as divine training requires a deep shift in perception. Many people collapse emotionally not because the trial is unbearable, but because they interpret it incorrectly. When a difficulty is seen as a punishment, the heart fills with anger, confusion, and hopelessness. The mind begins to question its worth and its direction. When trials are understood as part of divine training, the same difficulty becomes meaningful. Meaning gives strength. It gives the mind a reason to endure without breaking. Every individual is trained according to their capacity. No two people carry the same burdens, and no one is tested beyond what they can handle. This understanding brings a motivation. Instead of comparing your struggle to someone else's ease, the mind focuses inward and recognizes that this test has been assigned with wisdom. Comparison weakens resilience, while acceptance strengthens it. When the mind accepts that Allah knows its limits better than anyone else, it stops feeling victimized by circumstances. Emotional resilience grows when the mind realizes that ease and hardship are both temporary. Moments of comfort are not permanent, and neither are moments of pain. This awareness prevents emotional extremes. The mind does not become arrogant during ease, nor does it become hopeless during difficulty. It stays balanced, knowing that both states are part of life's cycle and both serve a purpose in shaping character and faith. Understanding trials as training also teaches emotional discipline. Training is meant to challenge, stretch, and sometimes exhaust, but is never meant to destroy. In the same way, trials push emotional limits to build inner strength. Patience, forgiveness, humility, and self-control do not develop in comfort. They emerge when emotions are tested. Each moment you choose restraint over reaction, calm over chaos, and trust over panic. Emotional resilience is being built quietly within you. One of the greatest emotional traps during hardship is asking why relief is delayed. The mind begins to assume that delay means neglect. This assumption weakens emotional strength. When trials are seen as training, delay is understood as part of the process. Just as muscles are strengthened through repeated strain, emotional endurance grows through sustained patience. The mind learns that timing is as important as outcome, and that premature relief could rob a person of growth they still need. Resilience also develops when the mind understands that pain does not define identity. A trial may affect your circumstances, but it does not reduce your value. Many people emotionally break because they attach their self-worth to success, relationships, or stability. When these are shaken, the mind feels shattered. Viewing trials as training separate its identity from circumstance. You are not your loss, your failure, or your struggle. You are a servant in training, being refined, not erased. Okay, emotional resilience is further strengthened by recognizing that trials cleanse and elevate. They wash away arrogance, soften hardened hearts, and bring people closer to sincerity. When the mind understands this cleansing effect, it stops resisting hardship emotionally. Resistance creates internal conflict, while acceptance creates peace. Acceptance does not mean liking the pain, it means trusting the purpose behind it. Another key aspect of resilience is learning to manage emotional responses rather than suppressing them. Trials will bring sadness, frustration, and even tears. Emotional strength is not the absence of these feelings. It is the ability to feel them without letting them control behavior or belief. When emotions are acknowledged and then redirected toward patience and prayer, the mind remains stable instead of fractured. Seeing trials as divine training also reduces resentment toward people. Many tests come through others, betrayal, misunderstanding, harsh words, or abandonment. When these are viewed only on a human level, anger consumes the heart. When they are seen as part of training, the mind learns to respond with dignity. It understands that people may be tools in a test, but Allah is the one allowing it for growth. This perspective protects emotional health and prevents long-term bitterness. Ultimately, emotional resilience develops when the mind trusts that every trial carries wisdom, even if that wisdom is revealed years later or never fully understood in this life. This trust stabilizes emotions, strengthens endurance, and creates a heart that bends without breaking. Cultivating consistency in mindset, patience, and gratitude is what transforms temporary strength into lasting mental resilience. Many people experience moments of faith, calm, and positivity, but they struggle to maintain them when life becomes repetitive, stressful, or disappointing. Consistency is what trains the mind to remain steady, not only during major trials, but also in the ordinary pressures of daily life. Without consistency, the mind becomes reactive, swinging between hope and despair based on circumstances. A consistent mindset begins with how a person frames daily experiences. Instead of waiting for major events to test faith, the mind learns to apply the same principles to small frustrations, delays, and disappointments. Traffic, misunderstandings, financial stress, and unmet expectations are daily opportunities to train patience. When the mind repeatedly chooses calm over irritation, it becomes conditioned toward emotional control. Over time, this control feels natural rather than forced. Patience is often misunderstood as silent suffering or emotional suppression. True patience is active endurance with purpose. It is choosing the right response repeatedly, even when the situation does not improve immediately. Consistency in patience prevents emotional burnout. When patience is practiced only occasionally, the mind becomes exhausted during prolonged trials. When patience is practiced daily, even in small matters, the mind develops stamina. It learns that discomfort does not require panic, and delay does not require despair. Gratitude plays a crucial role in maintaining this consistency. A mind that is grateful regularly is less likely to collapse during difficulty. Gratitude shifts focus from what is missing to what is present. This does not ignore pain, but it prevents pain from dominating awareness. When gratitude becomes a habit, the mind automatically searches for balance during hardship. Even a single recognized blessing can stabilize emotions and restore perspective. Consistency also protects the mind from emotional extremes. Without it, a person may be deeply thankful during ease and deeply resentful during hardship. With it, the emotional state remains balanced. The mind understands that both ease and hardship come from Allah, and both deserve a measured response. This balance prevents arrogance when things go well and hopelessness when things do not. Another important aspect of consistency is routine remembrance. The mind is influenced by what it repeatedly hears and thinks. If it is constantly exposed to negativity, complaints, and fear, it becomes fragile. Consistent remembrance of Allah realigns the mind daily. It reminds the heart of purpose, accountability, and hope. This regular realignment prevents the accumulation of emotional clutter that often leads to breakdowns. Consistency in gratitude also reshapes how the mind views progress. Many people feel mentally defeated because they expect immediate results from effort and prayer. When progress appears slow, they become discouraged. A grateful mindset appreciates small improvements and unseen growth. It understands that change often happens quietly. This awareness keeps motivation alive and prevents the mind from giving up prematurely. Maintaining consistency requires discipline, especially when emotions resist it. There will be days when gratitude feels forced, patience feels heavy, and optimism feels distant. Mental resilience is built when consistency is maintained even on those days. The mind learns that emotions do not dictate actions. Actions can guide emotions back into balance. This sense of control strengthens confidence and self-respect. Consistency also builds trust in Allah over time. Repeatedly choosing patience and gratitude reinforces the belief that Allah's plan is unfolding with wisdom. The mind becomes less reactive because it has seen through experience that relief follows endurance and clarity follows confusion. This accumulated trust becomes a powerful source of inner stability. A consistent mindset also guards against regret. Many emotional wounds come from impulsive reactions made in moments of frustration. When patience is consistently practiced, these reactions decrease. The mind learns to pause before speaking or acting. This pause prevents damage and preserves dignity. Over time, the absence of regret itself becomes a source of peace. Ultimately, consistency is what makes mental strength sustainable. It transforms faith from a reaction into a lifestyle, patience from a struggle into a habit, and gratitude from an emotion into a mindset. When these qualities are practiced consistently, the mind becomes steady, resilient, and difficult to shake. Regardless of how often life changes or tests appear,